Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Vernon from Bear Arms Tactical. That's the announcement. Formerly Reptilia Exotica, we're changing things up, and as I discussed in pretty great detail in the last video, we're going to be shifting gears. Going forward, the type of content that you're going to see coming from me is going to be drastically different than what it was before. I go over all those reasons in the last video, so check it out if you want me to get into greater depth about it. But for now, we're just going to talk about where do we go from here, right? So I talked a little bit in the last video about the world being different. It's very different now, specifically as compared to last year. You know, just in a 12-month period, over the summer, we were up in 27 cities across the nation. Homicide was up 53% over this same time period last year. So this summer compared to last summer, homicide is up 53% in 27 cities. In 59 cities, another 59 cities were up about 15% overall, year over year to this day. So about 15% overall in 2020 over last year to this day. And over the summer from June to August, up 53%. That's crazy. So everybody has a right. And now we're not going to get political here. We're talking, this is factual information. This is law. Everybody has the right, the legal right, to protect themselves and their families. Now, that's what we're going to be focusing on in this channel going forward. We're going to be focusing on personal protection, you know, everybody's ability to protect themselves and the ones they love. And how do we do that, right? There's lots of different ways to do it. But there's a lot of data that says, you know, that the most effective way to protect yourself if you're involved in some sort of a self-defense scenario is with a firearm. Now, you know, data is data, but basically you are less likely to become injured in a self-defense incident using a firearm than using any other form of self-defense. Hand-to-hand combat, knives, blunt instruments, even just simply running away. You're more likely to get injured if you're involved in an attack of some sort by doing anything else other than defending yourself with a firearm. So, you know, looking at that data, that statistical data, that helped me make the decision to delve into this topic a little further. I have been training with firearms most of my life, but I didn't really start to take it super duper seriously until pretty recently. So I got the training I needed to become a certified firearms instructor. I am training students for their permit to carry in the state of Minnesota. And on this channel, we're going to be talking about all of the things that go into personal protection with firearms, you know, protection in the home, protection outside the home, things, you know, less lethal methods, when is lethal force authorized by the law, when it is not. We can talk about things like weapon retention. You know, what do you do if you are carrying and somebody tries to get your gun? What do you do? That's weapons retention. We can talk about, you know, all sorts of different firearms options. We can do some reviews. We can talk about continued training. I think above all, I wanted to focus on safety and continued training. So to be good at anything, you need to train to it. Basketball players, you know, football players, doctors, lawyers, they all train in their craft. And, you know, if you're not that good at being a basketball player, or if you don't train hard enough, what's the worst that could happen, right? I personally believe, I tend to agree with the law. I believe that everybody should have the right to defend themselves and their families, yes. Our United States Constitution provides for that. But, you know, it's 2020. Things are a little different. We have higher population densities, right? There's people that believe that, you know, the language in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution provides for every single American, to bear arms at any time. Well, I tend to agree with that, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And, really, I think in general, if you are going to make the choice to be a citizen defender and choose to exercise your rights, to potentially exercise lethal force to neutralize a threat against you or your family, you have a very, very high amount of responsibility resting on your shoulders at that point. And with that comes an obligation to train and be the best and be the most prepared and be the most knowledgeable that you can possibly be about everything to do with your decision to be a citizen defender. So basically, if you have firearms in the house, if you're thinking of having firearms in the house for personal defense and home defense, if you are a permit to carry holder, if you're a concealed carry holder, because the language depends, it differs depending on what state you live in, the verbiage about what it is that you actually have, whether it's a permit to carry or a concealed carry permit. So whether you're thinking about, getting into these areas, whether you're on the fence about it, you think, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, you don't know. And hell, even if you're completely against the idea, on principle, some people, and God bless them, they just don't want anything to do with it. They don't, for whatever reason, they do not want anything to do with it. Well, those are the people that I'm hoping will stick around, and hopefully maybe we can change a few minds. If not, that's okay too. But really, we want to make sure that everybody has access to good information and has some ideas to continue their training and to continue on their journey towards being the best that you can be and being the safest that you can be in this crazy world that we're living in right now. So if you fall into the former category of people who, may or may not want to hear anything about firearms in general, about personal protection, about home protection with firearms, if you fall into that category, let's talk about some stuff. Once again, this is not a political discussion, okay? This is based on actual data that is available from studies that have been done since the late 70s, to be perfectly honest. A lot of the data is older, but it really doesn't matter that much because the trends, you can see the trends if you plot it out on a graph, and I'm gonna include some graphical data here. The trends are continuing. They may be getting a little bit steeper or a little bit more shallow, but the trends are continuing. So the data that we have now isn't always the most current. A lot of the data that we have is current up to 2018, 2019. We don't have a whole lot of good data for 2020 yet because honestly, it's a statistical anomaly. So it looks weird on a graph. You'll see things like doing one of these numbers or doing one of these numbers, just violently diving up or diving down. But 2020 is an exception. So we're going to, talk about some statistical data and how that relates to, and could help you in your decision to either pursue an education in personal defense with firearms or not. And that's completely up to you. I would like to be a part of your journey, though. I'd like to help everybody, whether you've already made the decision or not. So that's what this channel is going to be about, right? If I've lost you already, I'm sorry, but hang in there. It's going to get good. I promise. So for a long time, there was not a provision in every single state. So we don't really handle, personal protection, concealed carry, permit to carry. We don't handle that on a national level here in the United States. We basically leave it up to the states to decide. And as of about a month ago, every single state including Alaska and Hawaii, have some sort of provision made if you would like to carry a firearm to defend yourself and your family. Some sort of a provision. Some of them are pretty restrictive, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops, and even though you do that, your state may still deny you your permit. So those are called may issue states. Those are states where they may issue you a permit. The majority of states that have either concealed carry or permit to carry laws are shall issue states. That basically means that if you meet the requirements set forth by your state, if it's X, Y, and Z, and you can prove that you meet criteria X, Y, and Z, they shall issue you your permit. And then there are the really, I don't want to say lax, but there are the states where there's no permit required whatsoever. States like Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arizona, the Dakotas, Idaho, Wyoming, Mississippi, states like that. Basically, all that to say is that if you're in the United States right now, this video applies to you, and you can gain some benefit from what we're about to talk about. So what are some of the pros and cons here? Right? You at least you used to hear. Now it's really a kind of a moot point because we have the laws in every single state, but you'll hear sometimes, people go, well, concealed carry laws will increase crime. Well, that's statistically inaccurate. That is factually not true. We can look at data on a graph that shows without a doubt, and I'll throw it out there, caveat, correlation doesn't equal causation. Okay, I'll throw it out there for all you scientific people that would like to dispute everything I'm about to say. But we've got the data to back this up. And the fact of the matter is, while it isn't necessarily 100%, it isn't 100% that by making people able to carry a firearm to defend themselves, that automatically lowers the crime rate. However, the data is there to back that up. If you look at it on a graph, the amount of people who choose to exercise their right to carry goes up, and crime, violent crime specifically, goes down. And that is historically accurate. We've got data all the way back to the late 80s when these laws first started to be written, and we have this data. Things like robbery, murder, assault, all the nasty stuff. In the states traditionally where there were no provisions made, or where they have very, very restrictive laws with regard to carrying a firearm, those types of crimes are typically anywhere from 10 to 100% higher than the national average. So if you average everything out, the states that have very restrictive laws basically make it almost impossible for you to defend yourself with a firearm. Those states have, across the board, higher rates of violent crime in general, up until 2018. Let me. I'm just throwing all this stuff out here because I know people are going to argue with me here. But we can go over that stuff in greater detail. I might do a whole presentation on it in the future. But I just wanted to start to put the notion in your mind that if you immediately want to tune out, think about what's been going on this year. Think about the safety of your family and how you might be able to prevent or, at least reduce the likelihood that something may happen to you, may happen to your family. So now, what if you think you're a total badass and you're like, well, listen, I know what I'm doing. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo or something. Well, statistical data again shows that you will be more likely to be injured in some sort of an altercation with any other means. If it's hand to hand, if you're using a blunt instrument, if you run, if you try to, pick up a rock. Now here's Rebel. She wants to say hi. Everybody say hello to Rebel. Hello, Rebel. It's Yokai's little sister. Go play with Yokai. you're statistically higher probability to become injured in any sort of an incident. So that's about all I've got for today, guys. I didn't really organize or plan this out too much. I was just kind of going stream of consciousness on this. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up what we're going to be talking about, the things that we'll be discussing. We'll be talking, getting really specific with things that you can do. We'll talk about, practicing. We'll talk about dry firing. If you don't know what that is, we can talk about all kinds of stuff. Let me know in the comment section below if there's anything that you really would like for me to do a presentation on. As I said, I'm no expert, but I do my homework. If I'm going to talk about something, I try my best to learn as much as I can about that subject before I talk about it, and I just so happen to know a decent amount on this subject, which is one of the reasons that I chose to make this channel. So in the meantime, not sure when the next video will be coming out. It'll probably be something simple like a review video or something like that before we get into the real meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask if you want to wear your mask. If you don't. Guess what? It's a free country. Nobody can force you to do anything. And above all, train hard, stay safe, and Baba Booey to y'all. I will see you guys next time. Thank you.